For today's video, I'm going to begin with a story that many of you might find familiar. It's a story about the average Joe who can't get the girl of his dreams. It starts off as a love story, but ends as a tragedy. The story goes like this. A scraggly-looking guy, very average-looking, a little rough around the edges, desires to be with the hottest baddie in town. She's blonde and beautiful, and he greatly admires her. Only problem is, other than not being very good looking, is that he doesn't have a lot of money, and she's a materialistic girl that likes expensive things. But he is a nice guy. I mean, well, sometimes he's not so nice, but at the end of the day, we look at him as having a heart of gold. So what he does is he buys her a diamond ring, but when he shows it to her, she's very unimpressed. She needs something big, something with a lot more girth. I mean, after all, she likes nice things. So what does he do? He gets a predatory loan and buys this old jalopy. Only car he could afford, in an effort to impress her. But he doesn't impress her. And at the end of the day, she goes with this jerk-off Chad. A rich guy who can buy her the nice things, and this nice guy ends up in a gutter. Sulking and reflecting on his decisions, realizing that at the end of it all, nice guys really do finish last. The story I just told was from a 1956 Tom and Jerry episode, Blue Cat Blues. And this episode presents a tale as old as time. That is the tale of a young man who, despite his tireless efforts, cannot get the girl of his dreams. In modern film and television, we have seen this guy who does nice things for girls only to get nothing in return, depicted as a meek and mild-mannered man. He is often shy, quirky, and a little socially awkward, but at the end of the day we perceive him as being a good guy, and therefore deserving of getting the girl in the end. But in recent years there has been a major shift in tone, as many of us have realized that this nice guy is actually not so nice after all. Beneath the surface, this guy has been shown to be very entitled, selfish, and harmful to himself and others around him. The nice guy's typical catchphrase of, "Why would a girl want a guy like me?" no longer evokes sympathy, but irritation. With the explosion of social media, there has been a lot of analysis of the nice guy in both real life and in fiction. And now, the nice guy has become a pejorative term, and this individual who we once felt sorry for is now one which we mock. And many of you might already know that I have too taken part in making fun of the nice guy.
Sarah! They're leaving right now, please, Sarah! Sarah!
But even still, with all the movies and television shows out there that have presented this nice guy as the sympathetic main character, a lot of people, and a lot of young men especially, still believe that the nice guy's reactions to rejection are appropriate. And since even some of our superheroes have been depicted as nice guys, it's no wonder that a lot of young men are confused as to how to handle rejection. So today I'm going to go in depth about the nice guy. I'm going to discuss the 3 characteristics that are most prevalent in nice guys, and provide examples where these characteristics are portrayed in movies and television. I'm also going to provide an objective assessment of the counterargument. That is, that the nice guy is actually a sympathetic character. Lastly, I'm going to give some advice to the guys out there that might feel like they are in some way the nice guy. Specifically, I will give my advice as to how to avoid this type of self-destructive behavior, so you can have a happier and more successful dating life. Now before we get into the meat of this video, if you'd like to check out my short fiction piece, please refer to me as the character. It is available for purchase on Amazon for 99 cents. This cringe-inducing story is narrated by an insufferable incel, and after you read it, you might feel like you need to take a shower. Also, if you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you. Although we may not like to admit it, people are kind to one another ultimately to receive a potential benefit. And that potential benefit is not limited to a romantic partnership. That benefit can be financial or social. Maybe you want to gain a platonic friendship, or Perhaps you're just nice because you want to feel like you did a nice thing. So when you're pursuing someone romantically, it is completely normal to feel disappointed when your efforts at courtship don't produce your desired outcome. But nice guys are not just disappointed by rejection. Nice guys become absolutely devastated, and they perceive rejection as an act of betrayal. The reason being is that to them, the chance of a relationship is not just a possibility, but an expected outcome. The nice guy holds the belief that because he acts kindly towards his love interest, he therefore is entitled to a sexual or romantic partnership. Tom from Tom and Jerry, for instance, believed he was entitled to a relationship because he bought a girl nice things. But it's not only that. Tom also believed that because of his disposition, specifically his willingness to go through crazy efforts to get her attention, that Tom was therefore destined to be with her. Because of how they view themselves, Tom and other nice guys feel they are superior to other men, especially men who are in their love interest peripheral. And when their love interest becomes romantically involved with someone who is not them, they feel a sense of betrayal. This is despite the fact that their love interest does not owe an ounce of loyalty to them. In Spider-Man 2, starring Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker suffers an emotional breakdown after discovering that his love interest, Mary Jane, is engaged to astronaut John Jameson. Peter can't even begin to fathom that Mary Jane would choose Jameson over him. After all, he is Spider-Man, and not only is he a superhero, but just overall a really nice guy. Peter believes this despite the fact that he isn't even a good friend to Mary Jane, and he doesn't even make an effort to see her. For instance, we find out that he's the only person in her social circle who didn't show up for her performance, a performance which she emphasized was really important to her. Mary Jane even makes the point to Peter that even her sick mother got out of bed to see her perform, and even Peter's aunt was able to make it to the show. But when Peter is confronted with these valid criticisms, he still feels betrayed and stares at her with these creepy Manson lamps. And then later tears up having to take a photo of her with her fiancé. Now there's an argument to be made that the whole point of his relationship to Mary Jane was to emphasize his struggle with balancing his superhero life with his personal one. But even still, Spider-Man had no basis to feel that he was owed a relationship to engage Mary Jane, especially since he couldn't even show up to one of her performances. But what's more irritating is how the movie ends. Mary Jane breaks off her engagement in the most toxic way imaginable and ends up with Peter Parker. Now Mary Jane probably did John Jameson a favor, but it's still a terrible message to convey to young men. That if you feel superior to others, the person you feel you are destined to be with will ultimately be with you. And Spider-Man isn't a standalone film since we see this message conveyed in other films as well. And in these films, that message is often coupled with the notion that if you're persistent, no matter how creepy and invasive your acts may be, in the end, being with the one whom you desire is your destiny. And this is your destiny regardless if the person you desire is already in a committed relationship. Only problem is that in real life, this scenario rarely plays out the way the nice guy envisioned. As we will discuss later, even in real-life instances where the nice guy does get the girl in the end, it does not cure him of his nice guy qualities. He will continue on a path of self-destruction and ultimately be unhappy. The nice guy phenomenon is quite common, especially with males who are in high school and in their early years of college. The reason that is that the nice guy mentality comes from a place of deep-rooted insecurity. This insecurity may stem from growing up with the absence of one or two parents, but this isn't always the case. Whatever the origin of his insecurity may be, the nice guy unfortunately perceives himself as being less than others around him. The nice guy feels like he's a misfit, that nothing ever works out for him, and that he is missing something from his life that everyone else but him has. Due to his insecurity, the nice guy will seek women that are uninterested and or unavailable. We see many instances depicted in film and television where the nice guy befriends the girl who is unavailable and already in a committed relationship. And in those circumstances where she is not in a relationship, the writing's on the wall that she has absolutely no interest in him. Now there's a couple reasons why the nice guy seeks out what is unobtainable. One is that the nice guy is a masochist, and because he hates himself deep down, he therefore subconsciously feels deserving of rejection. The other reason is that the nice guy is trying to fill a void, and by filling that void, he will somehow change the course of his life. He mistakenly believes that if he can get what he cannot obtain, then he will thereafter be convinced that things do work out for him, that he is not a misfit, and that he actually has value. That is why for the nice guy, the purpose of the relationship doesn't have much to do with filling the void in his love life, but rather to fill a deeper void that is causing all his insecurities and unhappiness. Now, we've already discussed Peter Parker coveting the unavailable engaged Mary Jane, but another great example of this nice guy wanting that which is unobtainable is portrayed in the 90s animated sitcom Hey Arnold. In the season 3 episode titled Arnold and Lila, a series of quirky events leads Lila to believe that Arnold is in love with her. Lila is flattered by the notion that Arnold likes her, and so she pursues him. She starts giving Arnold a lot of affection and seems to follow him around everywhere he goes. But Arnold is initially uninterested in Lila's displays of affection, and conveys to her that he doesn't share those feelings. Arnold says that he does not like Lila. However, once Lila is no longer around to give Arnold affection, Arnold suddenly realizes that he does like her, and wants a relationship. But when Arnold professes his love to Lila rejects him, and expresses her realization that the only reason she liked Arnold is because she thought Arnold liked her. Arnold is of course saddened by her rejection. But Arnold does not move on from Lila, and for the remainder of the series, Arnold remains head over heels, if not more head over heels, with the girl who is unobtainable. In the season 5 episode of Arnold Visits Arnie, the show demonstrates the point that Arnold only wants Lila because Lila doesn't want him. In this episode, Arnold dreams of visiting his weird cousin Arnie out in the sticks, and while he's there, Arnold dreams of meeting a girl named Lulu. Lulu is a girl who has a striking resemblance to Lila, and in fact, the only significant difference between Lulu and Lila is that Lulu is smitten with Arnold. Lulu, who is Arnold's dream version of Lila, conveys clearly to him that she likes him, but Arnold is not in the least bit interested in her. Nevertheless, Arnold does have a love interest in his dream, and that girl is named Hilda. In an ironic turn of events, Hilda, a girl who looks identical to the character Helga, expresses that she is clearly not interested in Arnold. I love this show because it brilliantly reveals Arnold's true reasons for desiring Lila. And unlike Spider-Man, Arnold does not end up with Lila in the end, which further demonstrates the show's message that Arnold's reasoning for being infatuated with Lila was flawed. Now I want to clarify that although Arnold had times where he could be the nice guy, I do think he was a really good person. It also goes without saying that it's hard to place judgment on Arnold, since he was literally a child. But that being said, Arnold's response to rejection was sometimes not always appropriate. For instance, he came off self-pitying after getting rejected by Lila, even though he rejected her first. He was also jealous when he discovered that Lila liked his cousin Arnie, and was further judgmental about their relationship. And as I'm going to get into next, the nice guy's destructive behavior really becomes apparent after rejection. So as I previously discussed, all nice guys are entitled and insecure. However, having these characteristics alone does not necessarily make one a nice guy. After all, we are all human, and we all have shitty thoughts and feelings every now and then. Therefore, what truly defines a nice guy is not just the way he thinks, but rather the way he responds to rejection. When the nice guy senses rejection, he will engage in destructive behavior that will negatively affect him and others around him. It is at this stage that the nice guy will start to harbor resentment against the woman he is pursuing, and begin to express self-degradation. You might hear him say things like, "Who would want a guy like me? I wish I was in better shape. I wish I was taller," and so forth. The purpose of this, of course, is to get some sort of reaction, but more importantly, it is an attempt at evoking a sense of guilt. It's a pathetic attempt at manipulation, and it's very irritating to say the least. However, what's far more destructive than his displays of self-pity is when the nice guy begins to convey unwarranted judgment on the woman he is pursuing. He, for instance, will make remarks about her dating life, even though he has no business or place to be doing so. I want to mention the 1998 comedy The Wedding Singer, because a lot of us overlook at how much of a judgmental nice guy the main character really is. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, it's about a wedding singer named Robbie Hart, played by Adam Sandler, who's smitten with a woman named Julia, played by Drew Barrymore. And Julia is engaged to a guy named Glenn. Basically, the whole movie is just Robbie whimpering to Julia about his prior heartbreak, an obvious attempt at getting her sympathy and attention. Julia, like Robbie, has the emotional maturity of a middle schooler and sort of buys into Robbie's bullshit. Robbie's self-pitying is incessant and really annoying from the beginning of the movie, but his behavior gets even more toxic near the end. When Robbie discovers that Julia's fiance Glenn is a serial philanderer, Robbie goes into a deep depression. But Robbie's depression has absolutely no relation to any concern he might have for Julia, but rather, Robbie is upset upon the realization that Julia would choose this jerk over such a nice guy like him. And instead of revealing the truth about Glenn to Julia, and giving her the space to deal with what would be a traumatic breakup, Robbie instead lashes out at Julia and accuses her of being shallow and materialistic for wanting to be with Glenn. Recall that Robbie was not engaged to Julia. He was not in a relationship with Julia. Nor did Robbie ever even make a clear and direct move on Julia. Therefore, Robbie's frustrations were clearly rooted in selfishness and completely unwarranted. And this type of scenario unfortunately happens quite often with the nice guy, since feeling resentment is a way in which he can stifle his pain and insecurities. Instead of examining his own behavior, he'll begin to convince himself that something is inherently wrong with the girl he's pursuing, and that therefore she needs saving. He will change the narrative, looking at himself as a knight in shining armor. I think most of us will agree that Robbie was very destructive to himself and others around him. But in real life, not everyone is a Robbie or a Peter Parker. Therefore, there is an argument to be made that the nice guy can be a victim under certain circumstances. So that said, let's take a look at the counterargument and see if there are any instances where the nice guy can be a sympathetic character. So in looking at whether or not the nice guy is actually a victim in these types of situations, I think it's important to look at each scenario separately. And I believe there are 3 typical scenarios where a nice guy interaction can occur. So I want to go over these different scenarios and discuss whether it was the nice guy or the woman that was in the wrong. So in the first scenario, I think everyone can agree that the nice guy is not the victim. This is a situation where the nice guy pursues a woman. The woman knows that he is interested, and she conveys that she is not interested. Obviously, in this situation, the nice guy has been blatantly rejected. He hasn't been led on in any way, and therefore there is no reason for him to be resentful. And I want to clarify that in this scenario, the woman would have the capability of rejecting him outright. And the reason I say that is because, for instance, if the woman was being pursued by the nice guy in the workplace, due to the environment, she may not want the potential repercussions associated with rejection. And as an aside, I think as a general rule that people shouldn't romantically pursue one another in a workplace. And even though I'm sure there are successful love stories that started in the workplace, I can only imagine that the majority of those romances ended in disaster. So the second scenario is a little bit gray, and this scenario is very, very common in high school as well as college, since it often involves immature young people. So in this scenario, the woman he's pursuing knows he's interested in her, but is in denial of his feelings because she wishes to remain friends. In this scenario, the girl may know deep down that he likes her, but is not actively showing that she likes him. So for this scenario, although I don't think that she is a victim to the nice guy's incessant displays of self-pity, I neither think that the nice guy is a victim. And the reason I believe that is because she is not acting maliciously. I think this is more of a situation where there are 2 people who are really immature and inexperienced with relationships between the opposite sex. The third and last scenario is where a lot of guys feel that they have the right to hold resentment. In this scenario, the woman is well aware that the nice guy is interested. She, however, is not interested in him, but she actively chooses to remain friends with him because she likes the attention. The girl in this situation is intentionally manipulating the situation, and therefore I believe that her behavior can be very harmful. In this situation, I believe that the nice guy can be the victim temporarily. I say temporarily because in a lot of these situations, the nice guy, being a masochist, will continue feeding into her manipulation despite being aware of what she is doing. That said, the minute the nice guy realizes what she is doing, his victimhood has ended, because at that point he can simply walk away. But if he continues with his own toxic behavior, he has no one to blame but himself. So I'm going to end this video by giving some advice to the guys out there that might feel like they are in some way the nice guy. And I hope that this advice is particularly helpful to those guys who are friends with women and become attracted to their friends who are women, but their female friends don't like them back. And you might be wondering, what gives you the authority to speak on this? What gives you the authority to give advice? You're not a psychologist. Aren't you just some asshole on the internet? Well, that might be true. That might be very well true. But there was a time in my life, back in high school, that some people would have referred to me as the nice guy.
Poke. Poke, poke. I don't know, I'm just poking my bestie. What are you doing?
So I regrettably admit that there was more than one instance in high school where I would become friends with a girl, I would develop feelings for her and express my feelings, and when I was rejected, I would wallow in my self-pity. I would feel like the whole world was against me. It was very, very nice guy of me. But I think I got over it because I'm a married man now. I've been with the same wonderful person for 10 years. So I'd like to think that I grew out of that stage and learned to have a healthy relationship. And since I do come from that place, I feel like I do have some standing to give some advice. So whether or not you want to hear it, here's the advice I'm going to give. Here's my first piece of advice. If you're interested in a woman and you want to be in a relationship with her, you need to first honestly ask yourself this: do I actually like her? Or do I only like the idea of her? Better yet, am I going into this relationship because I think I'm going to make myself happier and more confident? Now, if you're going into the relationship for those reasons, you're not ready for the relationship. You need to be alone and work on yourself, work on your confidence. You know, I hear a lot of people saying that women love a guy with confidence. And the reason that is because women do not like guys that need them. They like guys who want them. And if you go into the relationship thinking she's going to make you happier and confident because you're not happy and you're not confident, then you're going into that relationship needing something. And she's going to sense that. And it's going to come off desperate. And she is 99% of the time going to reject you. I believe that's the number one reason why a lot of these guys get rejected. And it's probably the reason why I got rejected, because I needed something. I was unhappy and I didn't have a lot of confidence. And I thought that getting a girlfriend was a solution to my inner problems. And it's not. Now, assuming that you do honestly like her, in that case, you should pursue the relationship. And this is, of course, assuming that she's not already in a committed relationship. If she is, you really, really need to fuck off and respect that. We're talking about single women in these types of situations. But I see a lot of guys, they are afraid of pursuing the relationship. They're afraid of revealing their feelings to the girl because they're already friends with them. And they're worried that if they reveal their feelings and they get rejected, it's going to ruin the relationship. And here's where my second piece of advice comes in. If you're in that situation, you need to tell her. In fact, if you're in that situation, tell her right now. Okay? Call her. Or better yet, tell her in person. Don't text her. Okay? Don't do that. Don't be a wussy boy and text her. Tell her in person or call her. Texting never works. But you need to tell her, because You may be worried that the relationship will be ruined if she rejects you and you won't have the friendship, but let me tell you this. Don't worry about that because the relationship is already ruined. Okay, it's the hard truth. It is ruined because you have feelings for her. It's changed the dynamic forever. Now, you shouldn't feel bad about that. Don't feel bad about being attracted to your friends. It happens, but the bad thing that you can do is keep it from her. Because keeping it from her, it makes the relationship no longer authentic. It's no longer a platonic friendship. It's based on secrets and it's not truthful. It's not honest. So you need to tell her, okay? And the absolute worst thing that can happen is that she rejects you. But feel good about the fact that you told her, because going along with that friendship, believe me, it does no good for her and it does no good for you. It's just going to lead to a lot of pain. I mentioned earlier that insecure people should not get into relationships. They should instead take a step back and focus on themselves. But what does focusing on yourself really mean? I hear people say it all the time. You need to focus on yourself, but no one ever says what the hell that means. Well, this is what it means to me, and this is my third piece of advice. If you feel that you're becoming the nice guy, what you need to do is find yourself a passion. Find something that you really love to do and devote yourself to it. Become obsessed with it. And I don't care if that passion is sports, if it's art, music. It just needs to be an activity that is productive, something that takes a lot of time and effort to become good at. And the more you're involved with the activity, the better you're going to be at it. And you're going to gain confidence, and you're going to exude that confidence, and women are going to find that very attractive. And another thing that may be even more important is that when you're involved in something and you're trying, you will have wins, but you're going to have a lot of failures. That's just inevitable. It's a part of life. But you're going to learn how to accept failures, how to move on, how to try harder and be better for the next time. And it's going to really help you understand and accept rejection, because that is inevitable as well. And most importantly, you will be happy because you will be doing something that you love. And happiness is arguably an even more attractive quality than confidence. Women love happy men because you get to share your happiness with others. You don't want to be the unhappy, insecure guy who's looking for that solution in a woman. It's not going to happen. So if you have a passion already, do it even more. Do it even more. And if you don't have a passion, go out and find what you love and do it to the fullest. Because I promise you that once you feel happy and fulfilled, a relationship with someone who is actually right for you will inevitably follow.